넌 믿음 예수.
Hello, those of you out there in internet land. I would like to apologize for my immodest dress last week. I'm cleaning up my act a little bit, and as you can see around here, we are really cranking up a sweat for Jesus because as the Apostle James tells us, faith without works is dead. Now, this is a beautiful truth, and it is also a very highly misunderstood truth that is often distorted. You always have to read James through the lens of the Apostle Paul. Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. You got to understand, Luke and Mark traveled with Paul and learned from him before they wrote the book of Mark, before they wrote the book of Luke, before Luke wrote the book of Acts. Paul also had to rebuke Peter, who openly endorsed Paul, and Paul was persecuted by men sent from James, okay? Now, if you read James backwards, you are going to get really twisted up. You have to read everything through this grace lens that the Apostle Paul gave us. James is not saying that faith plus works saves you, all right, or that works have to be added as a surcharge to your faith in order to be saved. The thing is, faith always manifests in works. And that's just a fact. It's faith that works through you. It is not you adding to faith or working alongside faith. If self-effort is involved, it is not faith. It is God who works so mightily through me. It is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do his good pleasure. Philippians 2:13. Now, the good pleasure part is important. And this is important when discussing the aspect of co-laboring. Co-laboring is not me on one side of the yoke and Jesus on the other side of the yoke, pulling the cart with all of our combined might. No, co-laboring is Jesus working through me as me. I'm a vessel that contains him, a temple that houses him, a branch that effortlessly carries the sap of the vine and bears fruit. My abiding in him is a passive work. I'm just attached. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm apathetic. And grace, you have to see, grace is defined as the divine influence of God upon a man, all right? The wind in his sails that pushes him, it pushes the vessel, drives the vessel. Grace infuses you. Many people don't understand grace. They think grace is just a cover up for sin. No, grace is the transformative substance that eradicates evil and compels you toward good living. Grace is not just another doctrine either. It's the very substance and essence and energy of God himself. Grace is a person. So, in terms of faith and works, we're not just talking about some limp biscuit apathy lying around waiting for a lightning bolt to push me along like Frankenstein. That's not what we're talking about. You got a lot of people, they won't do anything. They're waiting for God to come and revive them like Frankenstein. Of course, we make choices. We take initiatives in life, but even that is grace, and it's a happy, ecstatic impulse toward our divine calling. And this is what Paul talked about when he said he was pressing in towards something. He wasn't pressing in for moral perfection or to try to get closer to God, a God that he was already in union with. He was pressing in toward his high calling, literally his martyrdom in Philippians 3. He was running a race of his life's calling and ministry. And to think there was no pleasure, even in that most grueling task, then you are missing the nature of the gospel as well as the personality of the apostle himself. The religious man is compelled to run strictly out of motivation of duty, obligation, perhaps a fear of the consequences if he doesn't run. But we run out of a sheer desire for pleasure. Did you know that ultimately every man is looking for pleasure? Now, this is what Blaise Pascal says. This guy was a scientist and he was a Christian, but he was not a Christian scientist, okay? He says, all men seek happiness, and this is without exception. Whatever different means they employ, they all tend to this end, the cause of some going to war and of others avoiding it is the same desire in both, attended with different views. The will never takes the least step but to this object. This is the motive of every action of every man, even of those who hang themselves. See, every man, guys, is in hot pursuit of pleasure. It's just that some have a perverted notion of what will bring it about. Pleasure is always our motivation in the divine life. If I preach the gospel, why do I preach it? For the fun of it. Paul said, woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. Not because he was afraid of being punished if he didn't preach it, or that God wasn't going to be able to finish the job on his own if he didn't have Paul. No, the issue is that there was nowhere else that this high-octane supernatural voltage of pleasure was going to flow through Paul, and so it didn't allow him to go anywhere else. Love constrained Paul. He was hammered drunk on the message. He's like, woe to me if I don't preach this gospel. I've got to let it out. It's popping out of his eyeballs. You see, we are driven by pleasure. And the thing is, the worldly man chases pleasures that ultimately end in death, because all of mankind's made for pleasure. The Garden of Eden. Eden means pleasure. Mankind was created to tend the garden of pleasure. But in the fall, different men, they got different ideas of what pleasure was all about, and their motivations got all twisted up. Their motivations are all for pleasure, but they think that different things are going to provide the pleasure that are not going to provide the pleasure. And so that's why men run headlong after sexual immorality and jealousy and lusts and thievery. And these are not true pleasures. They're only counterfeits. They are shadows. And counterfeits always depend on the real thing for their existence. Okay? Counterfeits have no substance in and of themselves. Thievery depends on a real godly satisfaction in real godly given success to have any pull on a man. You see? Because every man's created for success. Thievery is just the counterfeit of that. Or look at sexual immorality. Okay? You are created by God for the true pleasures of sexuality. But outside the marriage bed, it is always going to be 100% unfulfilling. Yes, 100%. And 100% of the time, it will screw up your heart, your brain, your emotions. It sets you up for addiction, divorce, brokenness, poverty. It will bite you somewhere, all right? The lie is that the momentary indulgence is worth the consequences. And so it's worth it even if you pay up later. No. Even the momentary pleasure is not what it's really cracked up to be by Hollywood. God designed marital sex to be the hottest commodity on the block. Christendom owns the best sex on planet Earth, okay? Muy, muy caliente. Any dirty coup outside of that marital relationship is only going to tell you a lie. There's no glory on it. You'll only experience glory in the of marriage, all right? But back to our point here. Ultimately, pleasure is the motivation for living the divine life. The blessings that flow from a good, healthy, moral life and doing good works. Morality is not the surcharge to purchase your salvation. Morality is all about constructs God developed to heighten your pleasure. But there are blessings in the moral life for sure. Good choices bring good consequences. Bad choices, walking out in front of traffic, causes you to get smashed, right? Only the gospel, however, enables the moral life. Your attempt to live a moral life on your own human initiative is always going to cause you to fall flat on your face. We have been set free from the law of sin and death. That means it is not up to you to fulfill legalistic attempts to walk upright. But you are still under a law. Did you know that? A different law. It says that the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set me free from the law of sin and death. So, the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus always motivates us toward the bliss of right living and enables us to be the good little boys and girls that we are. Pleasure motivated. So, if we're motivated by pleasure, some might say, well, I'm just not going to go to work anymore because I don't feel like it. There's no pleasure on it. You have to understand this. It is for the joy set before him that Jesus endured the cross. Okay, he did not enjoy the nails in his hands per se, but he was thrilled with what those nails would accomplish. So let's have a little bit of wisdom in here, all right? It's not that you enjoy getting up at 7 a.m. Monday morning, but it is for the joy of the paycheck set before you that you endure the alarm clock. Pleasure is not motivating you to join the welfare line. Pleasure motivates you to succeed and run with your destiny. All right? Maybe you're a pizza delivery guy, and that's not your ultimate destiny. But your desire for pleasure encourages you to stick with it while you work your way through college to become an astronaut, which is what you really want to do. Okay? Pleasure never lets you camp along the way at a lesser desire. All right? You don't always have to stay the pizza man. It pushes you. Pleasure pushes you to fulfill your desires to succeed ultimately, even though there may be uncomfortable steps along the way. But neither does pleasure just jump ship because there are temporary, momentary hardships that are not immediately pleasurable in and of themselves. And Jesus told us there are going to be trials in this world, but the gospel is about that joy unspeakable in the midst of hardship that enables us to plow right through them. So as soon as you lose your hope and your future desire, then you just start clocking into your pizza job religiously, and then you've missed the point altogether. Look, there are two things here. Let me discuss briefly. You have delight and you have desire, okay? We delight ourselves in the Lord. Delight is present tense. That means if it's my birthday, I eat my birthday cake right here, right now on my birthday. We get to delight ourselves in the Lord because we have all of God right here, right now, the fullness of God. We can fully delight in Him. We don't need anything else, all right? Desire, the word desire is a future tense word, and we will always desire more of the Lord. But this word more gets really mixed up, so let me explain this. What God does is He gives us future desire. We're always going to desire more, but it's not desiring more of something that we don't already have. It's like you wake up Christmas morning and you look and there are presents everywhere, and as a matter of fact, there are presents going on for infinity, for eternity. Now, it's Christmas morning, all the presents are mine, I already have all the fullness of God, but I'm always going to be opening those presents, discovering the more and the more and the more of what I already have, the more, and that's what it means to go from glory to glory. It's from revelation to revelation of the fullness that we already have. What God does is He gives you future desire, but the gospel takes the frustration out of it. So we're not saying more Lord, as if we're lacking something right now. What we're saying is there's more and a more and a more of a discovery of the fullness of the one that we've already been fully plugged into. It's like you've been given a golden ticket to Disneyland, but Disneyland goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. It's a theme park that you've already entered, but it's going to take you forever to discover all of the cool rides that He accomplished on the cross, okay? So here's the thing. Ultimately, you've already fully arrived in God. And now we get to participate in the journey of exploring and manifesting our supernatural inheritance in our daily lives. Not just keeping it out in theological theory land. Yes, I have the fullness. No, you have faith, trust, enables you to lose all of your fears, all of your inhibitions that hold you back from running headlong into everything He's already purchased for you in your destiny here in life, because you know that whatever comes your way, God is for you. And every obstacle just serves as an opportunity and a stepping stone to push you higher into what He's already given you. Faith makes you want to do things. You see, desire motivated. Faith doesn't make you want to do nothing. Faith makes you want to dive in and enjoy the party. But it doesn't make you, it's not about having to do right things like the law. You don't force yourself into evangelism because you have to. You get addicted to sharing the good news. You don't force yourself to pay tithes. You get addicted to giving thousands and thousands of dollars because you know there's supernatural increase in it, okay? You don't force yourself to be a good spouse. You are addicted to serving your spouse, okay? Shaka-laka-laka-laka. It is actually the sense of duty and obligation that keeps people in bondage. You don't owe God anything. In case you didn't realize it, Jesus fulfilled your obligation. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Nope, grace dissolved all of your debt, ripped you right out of chapter 11 bankruptcy, my friend. Well, what is he doing? Is he challenging the lyrics of Amazing Grace now? Look, you are dependent on him. You are not in debt to him. Paradoxically, this revelation is the very thing that spills more and more and more good works out of your life. You see, Paul, the grace apostle, he outworked the rest. I want to address something really quickly here. Some people start to get hold of the gospel and then they seize up and they start to try to make a work out of doing nothing. They start to sit around afraid to do anything. They're afraid they're going to become legalistic if they start doing stuff for God. Look, you don't do anything for him anyway. It's him doing through you. Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. That's not about you popping a hernia, trying to do good works and make stuff happen. That's about exploring the effortless gift of grace and the power that is latent and now flowing within you. You don't need to overanalyze every little thing you do and get hung up on every little thing you do. Am I being religious to do this? Is that me doing this, or is that God doing this? No, it's like Nike has been telling you since 1988, just do it. Those are God-given impulses to want to go in the mission field, to create orphanages, to start businesses, to go to college, to create things, to pioneer. Grace is the divine enablement for all of it. The very spark of creative initiative that pushes you to be the good boy that you already are, to do the good things you were already foreordained to do from the foundation of the world. Those are good desires, okay? And yes, sometimes a little difficult along the way, but it's him propelling you and it's his power busting through every obstacle. Oftentimes, the rubber hits the road when life gets busy or those situations get difficult, and you have three options. One, religious people, they say grace plus me. You drive ahead thinking grace is just part of the equation, but then another part is up to you. And then you burn out depending on your own efforts. And then there's choice two. There's the use grace as an excuse for apathy option. You give up, you wait on God for the lightning bolt, while life drives over you like a school bus, and you don't understand you have authority over cancers and disease and poverty. But then you have number three, choice three. And this is a more mystical option. This is the gospel way. You do give up for sure. You fully retire from your self-effort, your strife, and your idea that God needs your help. But hope and pleasure make you stay in the game, trusting that it is God's grace that empowers you, works so mightily through you, and ultimately enables you to bowl through every obstacle, knowing that the end results are not up to you. You don't even care about results anymore. You are jacked up on him. You are pleasure motivated, and somehow mystically the pleasure of God in the midst of your difficult situations causes those deserts to blossom into gardens, and there is a real joy set before your future. Not just the carrot of the law hanging in front of you, but an ever-present Mr. Joy that is in you, and you delight in him right here, right now, and that pushes you through to the effortless place of manifesting future destiny. Proverbs says that wisdom brings an irrevocable future hope for you that cannot be cut off. You are unstoppable. And through the enabling, empowering unction of God, you don't even have to break a sweat. Faith works through you to move mountains. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week. Hey guys, it's last call. Drinks are on tap this month, the month of May. We're going to be coming to 4 locations for the Losing My Religion tour. It's going to be myself, it's going to be David Vaughn, and we are going to have 2 days in each location of getting absolutely hammered drunk on the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ. We'll be in Atlanta, Georgia for all of you in the Southeast. We're going to be in Houston, Texas for those of you in cowboy country. We're going to be in Chicago, Illinois for those of you in the Great Lakes region. And we'll be in Boston, Massachusetts for those of you in New England. So come join us, losingreligion.eventbrite.com. Sign up today. It's coming up quick. And hey, join us for a mystical school. If you're looking for a really intense 3-day download, we're going to be in Ohio coming up June 1st through 3rd. We've got a few schools in America. We'll also be in Montana, Bozeman, Montana, June 8th through the 10th. And then we're coming back to California, our Southern California Mystical School in Riverside this August. And then we're going to be bringing the Mystical School back to Texas. We'll be in Austin, Texas, also this summer in August. And we're coming to the UK. All of you guys are friends in the UK. Join us in Edinburgh, Scotland, August 16th through the 18th. We encourage you to sign up quickly. And we'll also be in Germany. In Germany, September 21st